It's Thursday, the 30th of September 2021. Welcome to the Fear and Greed Business Headlines, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Top 5 stories in 5 minutes. Here we go. Story number 1, what a day in equity markets. The S&P ASX 200 lost 1.1% yesterday, following its 1.5% drop on Tuesday. That's tens of billions of dollars in value. What is happening?
In short, traders are worried about inflation, and this is a global story, not just local. Investors fear what will happen if inflation pressures prove to be more than transitory and central banks around the world start tightening monetary policy at the same time as economic growth stalls. The COVID pandemic, rising energy prices, oil and gas and coal prices are through the roof, and supply chain and transport problems are all adding to concerns that price rises might be here to stay. Now, much of the world's manufacturing is in China and Southeast Asia. Companies can't get their goods out of there. The pictures of fuel shortages in the UK, power outages in China, it's really adding to the fears. That's hit Wall Street, it's hit European stocks, and now it's hit Australian stocks. It's broad-based, though technology and healthcare stocks did particularly poorly yesterday. Along the same lines, the gold companies, which haven't had many friends recently, did pretty well.
Big story, Sean. That's story number 1. Now, on to number 2. We've spoken a lot about the housing market, the extraordinary growth in house prices. Financial regulators have finally lost patience, and they've confirmed they're worried about risks in the mortgage market and will release lending restriction options in the next couple of months.
Sure will. A crowd called the Council of Financial Regulators. It includes the Australian Prudential Regulation Authority, Reserve Bank, Australian Securities Investment Commission and Treasury. That's about as hard-hitting as you get. They want to take the heat out of the market. Prices are crazy, up about 18% nationally and higher in places like Sydney. That's on the back of low interest rates. The economy has gotten through the COVID crisis not quite unscathed, but still in pretty fine fettle. So people have been willing to spend that money to buy houses. The regulators are specifically worried about lending standards. They could do all sorts of things. They could lift the amount that someone needs as a minimum deposit. They could cap the amount of debt someone could take on. They could make repayment tests tougher. It's coming in the next couple of months.
All right, that's story 2. Story number 3, plenty of COVID news around the place. New South Wales and the ACT, and to a lesser extent Victoria, are starting to look towards the end of restrictions and the end of lockdowns. The national vaccination rate hit 53% yesterday. Pretty good news there, but what's the latest on the COVID front in Victoria?
Well, Victoria hit 950 new infections yesterday and 7 deaths. It also announced a snap lockdown in the Latrobe Valley. The big news out of that state is the workplace safety watchdog has laid charges against the state's health department about the quarantine breaches last year. The numbers in New South Wales were better. There were 863 new cases, though unfortunately 15 deaths.
And story number 4 is linked in a way. It's from the Bureau of Statistics, which yesterday said that there were falls in the top 5 leading causes of death in Australia last year. I suppose, in a way, it's the silver lining of the COVID pandemic.
It is, Michael, and we need a silver lining. The top cause of death in Australia for the last few years has been heart disease. But last year, the number of deaths was lower than 2019, and that's the first time the annual number of fatalities has fallen since 2009. The next biggest cause of death is dementia, including Alzheimer's disease, then strokes, lung cancer, and chronic lower respiratory diseases. All of these fell as well. Now, the reason is that all the public health measures around COVID has suppressed the spread of other infectious diseases. For example, there were just 55 deaths from the flu in 2020 compared to more than 1,000 in 2019. And if you're interested, COVID-19 was the 38th ranked cause of death. Another thing out of the numbers is that there were also decreases in deaths from preventable causes, such as suicide, drug overdose, and motor vehicle accidents, though unfortunately there was an increase in alcohol-related deaths.
All right, Sean, story number 5, and I don't know whether you've included this one because you're a fan of the Ramones or just because of the money involved. Tell me about this one.
Well, the Ramones were a punk band in the mid to late 1970s out of New York City, arguably the most influential punk band out of that country. Not everyone's cup of tea, and in fact, to be honest, I'm not a huge fan. But the guitar played by Johnny Ramone, who was the lead guitarist, on all the band's 15 albums and nearly 2,000 live performances, sold over the weekend for $1.2 million. Johnny died in 2004. Indeed, all 4 original members of the Ramones have passed on. However, the owner of the guitar picked up $1.2 million for it.
Wow, incredible story. There we go. 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you very much, Sean.
Thanks, Michael.
It's Thursday, the 30th of September 2021. Remember to hit follow, and if 5 minutes isn't enough, then search for our longer podcast called Fear and Greed on your podcast platform and sign up for our free daily newsletter at fearandgreed.com.au. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fear and Greed Business Headlines. Have a great day.